All right, welcome to chapter 4.3, day 2 of solving two-step equations. This will go along with homework 405, page 141 in the Big Ideas textbook. So, we're going to now talk about combining like terms before solving. So, if you notice on the example from the book, they have like terms right here, so you have to combine those and then solve it. So you can look at that example from the book. Here's another example from the book. So these two right here are like terms, so they combine them, and then you have to multiply by its reciprocal to get the 24. All right, so turn the page in your notes and let's try. So the first thing is my variable term. My variable term is negative 2y. So I notice I have a 4 and a plus 3. So you want to combine the 4 and the plus 3. So I'm going to get negative 2y, and then 4 plus 3 is 7, equals negative 9. So now I still have my variable term of negative 2y. So I have to get rid of the plus 7. So I'm going to subtract 7. So subtract 7, subtract 7. So the negative 2y comes down. And then I have to go negative 9 minus 7. That would give me negative 16. And then to get rid of the negative 2 touching the y, that's multiplication. So to undo that, I do division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. So when I go negative 16 divided by negative 2, that's going to give me a positive 8. So I end up with y equals 8. Okay, let's look at the next slide. On this one, I see this variable term, but there's also this variable term. So since there's two of them with x's, I have to combine those. So 7 minus 10 would actually give me a negative 3x equals 15. Now to get rid of the negative 3 touching the x, that's multiplication, so I undo that with division. So I end up with x equals negative 5. Okay. So the next one, again, I have this variable term and another variable term. So I have two of them that have the letter m. So I have to go 1.3 minus 2.1 on the calculator. And that's going to give me negative 0.8 m. The equal sign comes down and the negative 8 comes down. So to get rid of that negative 0.8 touching the m, I'm going to divide by negative 0.8. Do that to both sides. So I end up with negative 8 divided by negative 0.8. You did it correctly in the calculator, you would get positive 10. So m equals 10. All right, you want to turn the page. So we have this next one. Now you've got, again, two options. You can do the distributive property first and then solve it, or you could get rid of the 2. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just multiply by the reciprocal of 2, which is 1/2, which is the same as dividing by 2. So if I times it by 1/2 or divide it by 2, These are going to cancel, leaving me the 4p plus 5. And on the other side, 10 times a half, or 10 divided by 2, is 5. Then I need to go ahead. Here's my variable term. Whoops. My variable term. So I need to get rid of the plus 5. So I'm going to do minus 5 and minus 5. So I get 4p equals 5 minus 5 is 0. Then I divide by 4. And 0 divided by 4 is 0. So p equals 0. Now, if you did the distributive property, you get the same thing. 2 times 4, that would have given you 8p. Sorry. So 8p. And then 2 times 5 would be 10 equals 10. So when you go minus 10, you get 8p equals 0. Divide by 8, and you still get p equals 0. So you get the same thing if you do distributive property or you get rid of what you're distributing. Up to you. Now the next one has fractions. So I would definitely get rid of the 2/3, negative 2/3, by multiplying by its reciprocal. So the reciprocal of negative 2/3, I'd keep the negative on top and do negative 3 over 2. So I go over on this side, and I go negative 3 over 2. So these cancel. I'm left with x plus 3/5 equals, now if you go 1/2 times negative 3 over 2, that's going to give you negative 3 over 4. Then the next thing you want to do is get rid of the plus 3/5 so that your variable term is by itself. So I go minus 3/5 minus 3/5. So in the calculator, if you go negative 3/4 minus 3/5, negative 3/4 minus 3/5, you should get negative 27 over 20. You could also have negative 1 and 7 over 20. So that one had some fractions, but you have a calculator that does that. All right, the very last one before the example from the book. Here's my variable term. So I gotta get rid of the minus 1 first. So I just go plus 1 and plus 1. So that gives me negative d over 5 equals negative 5. Now, this is a divided by 5, and I like to include the negative with it. So the opposite of dividing by negative 5 is multiplying by 5, negative 5. You could also pretend there's a 1 in front of the 5, multiply by its reciprocal, which would still be negative 5 over 1. So we're going to times this side by negative 5 over 1. Those cancel, you're left with d equals negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Good job for anyone who could solve it before me. And then the last problem's one from the book. Talks about you install 500 feet of invisible fencing along the perimeter of a rectangular yard. The width of the yard is 100 feet. The length, what is the length? So we know the perimeter, we know the width. So if we look at the rectangle, 100, that is the width. So we're going to be looking for the length. So basically, you can use this equation. 2 times length plus 2 times the width. So the width is 100, so 2 times 100 is 200. And then you subtract 200 and then divide by 2, and the length is 150. All right, so you're going to go ahead and start your homework for number 405. And those ones have a lot of two-step equations, so good luck. Wish you well.